Hey guys, hello, how are ya? Welcome back to my channel. It's me, Steven. Yes, again, I know it's not Vlogmas or Vlogtober. I don't know why I'm filming so often. I didn't film practically, I hardly filmed once a week while I was off work, but now I got so much to say. So today's video is going to be really more about me sharing my July schedule with you. Today is the 17th, and that is when our bid award is announced. So I opened up the Flickr website on my laptop. My Wi-Fi here in this apartment is just very spotty, more than lately. So I did open up the website and the page. I almost closed my laptop so I wouldn't see it because I want it to be a surprise when I share it with you. But the enthusiasm I have right now for my job is so high. My company, once a month, the executive team does a live stream, and a large percentage of the flight attendants actually participate. It's great. We're all allowed to ask questions. We can each vote for those questions to see which ones pop up to the top. My question was not addressed, but it's okay. You know, they shared as much information as they possibly could with us. I really think that my company is as transparent as they possibly can be. No company is going to be able to share every detail with their staff because they don't know what's going on either sometimes. They do have to play their cards close to their chest so as not to set up any you know, expectations that can't be met, because who knows what's going to happen. But I really think they were being as transparent as possible. And one of the things I was very proud of is, I know that every company is doing that these days, but one of our leaders there, you know, I see her more as a leader. She addressed this, you know, she didn't say white privilege. She didn't say it, but she did kind of address it. In that, you know, if you don't know there's a problem, you don't know there's a problem, so you don't see the problem, right? And so she really talked a lot about what the company does, what the company can do, and what plans are being made to really make sure that diversity is foremost in the company's thoughts. One moment, Buddy is whining and crying at me. One sec. All right. Buddy wanted to say hi. Ugh. Hi. Look at this. Yeah. Oh. Sorry, I didn't mean you to just watch me and my cat. He wants all this attention. When I give it to him, he's like, all right, enough. Do I get up? Oh, all right. We'll hang out for a minute. My company is really trying to create the best possible conversation about diversity and making sure that everyone's at the same table with the same flatware, with the same menus, and the same expectations of the kitchen. Oh, okay, fine, all right. So it was really a wonderful meeting. Very happy. Let's see, yeah, it was great. And they addressed the elephant in the room about potential furloughs because, you know, it could possibly happen. It still could possibly happen. Everything kind of hinges on July and August. Last meeting, they had all discussed furloughs at length, but the question kept popping up from flight attendants saying, you know, are they going to happen? When they're going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to, and I think that the in-flight team had been talking about it so much and felt that they had addressed it so often that one of our executive members had a little giggle when my question came up, which was about furloughs. And she kind of giggled a little bit when she responded to it. And I was so, I wouldn't say incensed, but I was like, how dare you laugh? This is a real valid question. This is a real fear that many of us have. And I think she really understood, maybe she heard, because I did post about it, that I was unhappy with that little giggle, that nervous tick, that nervous little laugh. It just wasn't appropriate for me. So today's meeting, she really talked about it with as much transparency as possible. and as much respect as possible. So it was just a wonderful meeting. And it reminded me of how happy I am to work for my company. My goal was not to work for my airline. My goal was not to work for an ultra low cost carrier. My goal was to be fancy as I used to be, as I said in my last video. But my higher power, hey you, I think it's Patty that remembered that nickname. My higher power got me here, and I am just so grateful. All right, so that's almost 6 minutes about me being grateful about my job. So let's find out what my schedule looks like for July. All right, I got a line. I was fairly certain I would get a line. It looks like I have a chaser line, and a chaser line and a 320. All of my pairings start with an L9, which tells me that I'm in a chaser pairing on a 320. Now, I'll be flying position D, and that means that I'll be, and it's called a chaser because you chase different crews or you chase different aircraft. We switch crews and switch aircrafts fairly often. Rarely, very rarely do you work with the same crew a couple times in the same day or for a whole trip. I don't think I've ever experienced that before. So there's a negative and a silver lining there. The negative is that during this time of pandemic, Flight Attendant D does not sit right next to Flight Attendant A as normal. For now, Flight Attendant D will sit in seat 1D, which is the, if you're facing this way, we have two big front seats here and two big front seats here, and they are like business class seats. They're bigger, they've got a lot of cushion, a lot of head support. They're super comfortable. So I'll be sitting in the one that is in the aisle on the right-hand side of the aircraft right, and that's 1D. So I'll be sitting there instead of my jump seat. How exciting is that? So it's super comfortable, really, really comfy. So that'll be nice. I won't be sitting directly next to one of my flight attendant friends. I'll be sitting next to a guest or a passenger, but there's a little bit more space there. It's not so like on top of each other. The negative is that I will not be getting any lead pay. If I were part of a regular crew, especially during these times of pandemic, chances are the more senior people will want to fly in the back of the aircraft away from a majority of our guests, just for some social distancing, not because they don't like our guests. So I will not be in a position to fly lead, which means I'll miss lead pay. So there's that, but I'll be sitting in a nice comfortable seat. And Flight Attendant D doesn't really, I won't say they're not responsible for a lot of stuff, but they're not really responsible for a lot of stuff. But you do get the same benefit of being able to be up close and personal with our guests, like facing our guests all the time. And that's part of my favorite part of the job. All right, so I'll be flying D this month, and this is very rare. I almost never get a chaser line. I don't know how I got this. Oh, by the way, what number bid was this that I chose? So let me look at my email. Every month I email myself my bid sheet so I can get a good look at what order I placed bids, so I can see what my preferences were and which spot I actually achieved in that list. And I got line 82. I got my second choice. Who remembers me talking about going back to the airport and spending 4.5 hours after I already spent hours bidding to refine my bids to make sure that they reflected what I really, really wanted? Who remembers that I spent 4.5 hours bidding for every single line and reserve lines just in case? I got my second choice. That just feels very strange. Very strange. So what is it about this schedule that was so enticing that I chose this as my second choice? It's not obvious to me as I look at this, to be honest. All right, so there's 4 trips. I don't know why I wanted to be a chaser. I don't typically bid for chaser lines, but mostly because I never get them. It usually goes to, I think, typically more senior people. But all right, so it's 4 4-day trips. They're nicely spaced, which is kind of important. I don't like my trips back to back. I hate that. All right, so I have 4 trips. The 3rd through the 6th is the first trip. My report time, which is part of my choosing my bids, my report time is 12:50 in the afternoon, which is perfect because I can let Buddy out. Yes, everything has to do with my cats. Sorry, if you're new to me. Buddy can go outside. He goes outside these days about 4 a.m. and he comes back in like 3 hours later. So that gives me plenty of time to sleep after he goes outside, get him back inside so I can go to work. He's back in the house the latest 8 o'clock, the latest. So this will be plenty of time for him and me. First day is 3 legs and the next 3 days are 2 legs each, which is great. The last thing you want is 4 legs on a return the last day of your trip. The layovers are not spectacular. 12 hours in LA, 20 hours in New Orleans. Depending on what's going on in New Orleans, I might stay in my room for the whole time. But if it's nice weather, I might go into New Orleans to just walk around New Orleans, avoiding crowds. So we'll see what happens. In New Orleans, it looks like I'm going to arrive in New Orleans at almost 11 o'clock in the afternoon. My report time is almost 7 o'clock in the evening. So that's a great layover. That's plenty of time to sleep, wake up at a rational hour, and then see the city and then go to work. So that's nice. The last layover is Tampa, which is 10 hours and 43 minutes, which bites the big one. Because Tampa is not easy. It doesn't seem like a quick trip from the airport to the hotel. It seems, for some reason, it takes longer than it should. So I'll arrive in Tampa at 5:55 in the morning, and my report time is at 5:08 p.m. So you might see me this month in July. You might see me take an Uber from the airport to the hotels. Excuse me. I have a couple Uber gift cards I have not used yet from you guys. Thank you. I may use them in these cases. I would not, if there were, and I know that some of you are thinking of safety, because of course you do. If I were in an Uber going from the airport to the hotel, if there were an accident, it would be on my dime, because the company would have insurance on us if we were traveling with the airport, the hotel shuttle. But I don't know if I would want to risk losing a couple hours, an hour of possible sleep to wait for a shuttle to get to Tampa. So I might take an Uber. And I'm back in Las Vegas at almost 10 o'clock at night. So in this trip, I'm away from base 81 hours and 27 minutes. That's a long time. The trip isn't bad, and it's fairly high credit. It's 28 hours credit. We have, in Vegas, if you're a flight attendant, you'll understand how bad this is. We have 48 trips that have 13 hours credit. So to have 28 hours credit on a 4-day is not bad. Next trip, looks like the next 2 trips are identical. They're the same trips. So I'll leave, excuse me, the 10th through the 13th, which is the first trip. And the second trip is the 17th through the 20th. So I have like 3 days off between these trips. These 2 trips are identical. The show time is 12:20 in the afternoon. Once again, plenty of time for Buddy, my little boyfriend. Look at this. Hi, boyfriend. Look at him. Plenty of time for my boyfriend to go outside and do his little walkabout and come back in the house. 2 legs the first day, 3 the next, and 2 the rest. So the first day, New Orleans layover, 14 hours and 50 minutes, not that bad. Fort Lauderdale 17:18, so I can take the shuttle there and have plenty of time to sleep. The next shuttle is, layover is also Fort Lauderdale, and that is 12 hours and 36 minutes. So again, that's cutting it really close. I've waited an hour more for the shuttle in Fort Lauderdale. So rather than risk my layover being cut short by a shuttle driver, again, you may see me take an Uber from the airport to the layover. I won't be surprised if I do that. Again, both trips were identical. So there's 2 legs the first day, 3, and then 2 legs each the following 2 days. So the layovers are not fantastic, but I have 2 deadheads per trip. So on day 2, the first leg, which is New Orleans to Fort Lauderdale, is a deadhead. And then the last day is Fort Lauderdale to Houston, which is a deadhead as well. So that's probably why I chose this trip as one of my top choices. There's a lot of deadheads, and there are 10 days off between the 3rd trip and my last trip. So I have 10 days off in a row, which is pretty fantastic. The last trip, I also deadhead twice. So there's 1 leg the first day, 3 legs each other day, but 1 of each, 2 of those legs are deadheads. The deadheads are from Dallas-Fort Worth to Tampa, and then Tampa to San Juan. So those are good good deadheads. The layovers, not good, but the first layover is Dallas-Fort Worth, 12 hours, 14 minutes. That's another hotel that just doesn't seem to have their poop in it together for the shuttle. It just takes forever sometimes to get that shuttle. Maybe it's another Uber, because the next day is Tampa, and that's 10 hours and 23 minutes. Again, I think I'll be using all of my gift cards for Uber in July, just getting to the hotels because I'm going to be impatient. And then the last layover of the month is Atlantic City. I've never been there before on a layover. Apparently, we're right down by the boardwalk. I wish it were a longer layover. It's only 14 hours. But there you go. So the first trip is I'm away from base 81 hours, 27 minutes. The second one, I'm away 80 hours and 47 minutes. Same thing with the third one. And the last trip, I'm away 74 hours and 47 minutes. Those are all very long trips for me. Those are all very long trips. The reason I think I bid for this line so and put it so high in my priority list, I think, is the number of deadheads. It looks like I got 2, 4, 5, 6 deadheads this month. And the fact that I have 10 days off between the last 2 trips. And those 10 days off would allow me to pick up some trips. Now I'm going to try in the next few months or year, however long I can keep it up, to do some pretty extreme savings. And so I think when I was bidding, I probably saw those 10 days off and went, that would be a great opportunity to pick up a trip. So if I could pick up another 4-day trip or something like that, that would be really lucrative for me. If it were something out of open time, most of that trip would be, or at least half that trip would be time and a half, which would be nice. If it's out of the regular trade board, it would be flat hourly, but I'll take that too. So it's a mixed bag, this line. I'm surprised I bid for this with such high importance. I'm really surprised. But it's got a lot of days off. The trips are fairly high credit. Again, the 28 hours credit that first trip. The next 2 are only 18 hours credit, which is not fantastic. But again, we have 4-day lines in Vegas that are 13 hours credit. So I'll take it. The last trip is 20 hours credit. So Not the worst. I am incredibly grateful to have a line. That's it. Oh, that's one more thing. Let's see how many people below me got a line. A surprising number of people at the top 50. Out of the top 50 in seniority, it looks like probably 40 of them took reserve. They probably are guessing that they're not going to be used often, and so that they'll be paid their hourly, which is pretty high because they're pretty darn senior. So they'll be getting their hourly without really working. So that's nice. But show, you know, I am 390 out of 691 flight attendants in my airline, my base, that are able to bid. So I am scrolling. So I'm 390, and it looks like the last person in order of seniority that got a line was number 503. Not bad, not bad. That's actually pretty good for the base for this time. So there you go. That's a long video with me talking a lot about numbers you can't see. But if you're curious about what my July line will look like, and I'll vlog all of it, so you'll see what that's like. Back to being a flight attendant. How nice. I am on reserve for the next today and the next 4 days. So I have a 6-day block of reserves. Then I'm off for 7 days. I have a vacation week this month. And my goal, if I can get there, because there have not been any flights from my airline from Vegas to Boston. Maybe I can get on JetBlue. I want to get to Boston or get to Providence. And I want to go visit, I've mentioned this once before, I want to go visit my brother's, the spot that we lived when my brother died. It's a spot that I've always figured I would never get to go and sort of get this closure, because I haven't been there since he died, and that was 1977, right? So I'm not going to spend any money going on vacation, because I really need to save every dime I can. So I'm not going to go on a vacation and do anything, but I want to fly up there, you know, rent a car, drive down there and see where he died. I had given up on ever being able to go there because I didn't know the address, and it wasn't really, I couldn't find it anywhere. But recently, in the pile of photographs that I got after my mother died, my brother's obituary was in there, and the address was actually right there on the obituary. So I think that's one thing I'm going to do in October. I might, if you're still watching this, it might be interesting, I might even reach out to my father. I haven't talked about my father before, have I? I don't think I have. I might even reach out to my father and see if it's possible he's willing to meet and get together for a short visit, a very short visit. Yeah, my father, just to end some of the mystery on that, my mother and father divorced when I was 2, mostly because my mother is a nightmare. She just was not a person to be married to, or to raise children. My mother kind of hid my brother and I from him and his family. She saw him as the devil and didn't want, because she's cuckoo, and didn't want my father or his family to have anything to do with us. And so she kind of hid us as best she could. And this is prior to Google, right? So, and I think compounded by the fact that he was fine with just letting us go, because I really don't think he was interested in having children. So I really didn't know him at all. I had almost zero contact with him. He would send a support check, a child support check, $160 every month, $160. This is a long time ago, to my grandparents. And he would wrap the check in a piece of blank paper so that it was like more secure. but he wouldn't even go so far as to write anything on that piece of paper. And I would once in a while get a birthday card from his wife, not from him, from his wife, but more often than not, she would send the birthday card in June, which was my brother's birthday, and he was dead, you know, so whole bunch of resentments. I met him when I was 29 or 30, and I've seen him, I don't know, twice or 3 times briefly since then. So I think it might be kind of interesting to, you know, meet him and get together and see what happens now that I'm 51. And he's got to be 74 now or 75. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. But there's a thought. There's a thought. How's that for a juicy little tidbit for those people who are still watching this video after all that boring, dry scheduling? How's that for a little bonus? Of course, you know, I'll vlog as much as I can if I do get to do that. So you'll hear about that soon if that's going to happen. All right. I will talk to you guys later. I can feel Buddy weaving between my legs. He wants some attention. So I'll talk to you guys later. Fly safe. Bye.